Hey y'all, this is Tasha, and this is Working Out the Kinks, the podcast. So today I'm sitting with my friend Shanda Domango Brown, and before we get into everything we're going to talk about, I want a quick little intro from you.
Oh, all right. Hey y'all, Shanda here. I am a movement healer and spiritualist, and I am happy to be here. Hey girl, hey.
Hey girl, hey. So it's funny because we're starting this and we actually have not thought of a conversation. So
we're working out the kinks.
Yeah, we're just gonna go
for the
off
first
the dome.
episode.
So I guess let's start off with why I decided to even go into this doula world. I would say that I first started thinking about this when all my friends started having babies, and certain friends had different experiences than others, and I noticed that after everything was said and done, that perhaps if they had more information, if they were guided, then perhaps the experience would have been better for them. My sister herself had her baby during COVID. I had friends who had babies just before COVID happened, and even so, it's still kind of like this. If I had known this, then that would have happened, or if this wouldn't have happened, I wouldn't have allowed this to happen. So personally, I started looking up different information, and then the word doula came around, and I was like, what does that even mean? And how is this different from a midwife, which is a completely different topic? But I started doing my research, and I was like, this is what I want to do, because I feel like in the world that we live in, there really is no room and no space for a woman to go into her most vulnerable moment and not have the information that she deserves to have. So that being said, that's kind of how I got started. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I'm here for it. I think it's I think that's such a unique perspective, and approach to it. I'm not super familiar with the world, right, of doula, but I do have a few, I guess, associates, you would say, who I've just seen them transition into becoming doulas. But I think for you, it has been really interesting. I guess just as from being your friend, is watching you go into this really dope career as like a sex education pleasure expert, and then in turn tie that into becoming a doula. And I think we forget how hand in hand, if you think about it, those worlds and those two experiences are. So I'm going to toot your own horn for you, because I think that is one of your most unique approaches to being a doula. And your perspective is it's more than just being there through the pregnancy, and even after, you are very passionate about what happens after. And I think as a mom, as a wife, I think that is the part that gets left behind a lot of times, especially after the, what is it? And that's sadly, I don't even remember. After the 6 or 8 weeks, visit for them to make sure, in my case, you still stitched together and healing appropriately. There are a lot of things that you don't get guidance on, and that what I call they don't put in the handprint. And I think a large part of that is your sex life. If we keeping it a buck.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Because your body changes, your feelings change, your mentality change, and then there's also these feelings of, okay, this is my body now. How do I get with that? This is the new look. This is how I'm feeling. Mm-hmm. Not everybody have the bounce back body of 2 weeks after, and I'm just killing it with abs. So
or the energy.
Even your body biologically, sometimes it doesn't act the same way how it used to act. So sometimes you need a little help getting there.
Yeah.
So I think all that matters. I think even like on the husband's like or your partner's standpoint, I guess I should say, it's like, are they allowing you to like be comfortable again with yourself?
Yeah, I think what I found was, I learned that I had to do a lot of that introspect work. I didn't want to rely on my partner's validation. Is it important? Of course. Like, yeah, I mean, duh, But for me, I didn't want to rely on it because I wanted to authentically feel good in my own skin. And so that became a bit of a journey. I had to work out the kinks for that. And so I think what's cool about you being a doula and having that approach to being there throughout the entire thing is I think it's great, and I also think it's critical. I think you do a great job, and then you have the baby, and even when you're in the hospital, you have all of this help in the hospital, and then you get sent home and go, you got this, good luck. And you get home like, what the fuck? Like, what just happened? Yeah. I remember, my husband didn't see me. I was in the bathroom crying most of the last day in the hospital. Because I knew that the help we were getting, I knew it wasn't going to be there. Not saying my family came through for the one too. Like,
right, of course.
Don't get it twisted, but it was, I had these, I had these professionals that were willing to step in and that were willing to guide me, that were willing to hear me out, and I felt, I was blessed with a really good nursing staff and a bomb OB, so I felt so supported through the whole thing. And then that moment of like, oh shit, like I gotta pack. It's me, it's the four of us. Right. And we going home, and it
really just falls on you.
At the end of the day, breastfeeding for me being a person that likes to move around. I got a C-section. I could barely stand up. It hurt to laugh. Right. All of that was so new, and I think if I would have had someone in my corner, it wouldn't have felt so heavy and discouraging. But I had someone through that whole process and afterwards to be like, no, bitch, I still got you. Like, you still got this.
And I think that's also just kind of important as well, because sometimes once you go home, I feel the outside world is kind of taught that, oh, you leave the new parents alone, let them get, I guess, into like a acclimated to being parents, when I think at some point, mind you should definitely be there to help the new parents, not just to sit there and coddle the new baby. You should be there for the parents.
I think that's the key.
And that's where the ball is dropped.
Yeah, that's the key. I think, a lot of people had a problem, and I get it. Totally get it. And this was actually recommended to us by the hospital to not have visitors. And we were conflicted about it at first. I'm not even going to front. My parents are deceased. My in-laws, these are their first and only grandchildren. And we like saying, no, you can't come, But what was stressed to us was the importance of that initial bonding time. And we knew our families were going to be very supportive, and they stressed to us that importance of creating that bond and that unit, because by the time you got home, so many people would be coming in and out to help, and we were grateful to have that. Of course, some family members still didn't listen. They came through. They found a way, okay? But they still respected the boundary, and what I think that did was it created a certain boundary and an expectation of when we did get home, people were extra respectful of those boundaries, and when they didn't just pop up, right? Or they didn't force themselves into the house. Like, they came and they brought food and they helped, and then they left. You know, of course they like play with the kids, like duh. But everyone who was there, they were there to help. And I think a large part of that was that we set that parameter ahead of time.
And actually what you said is actually like some of like the keynotes that's said in postpartum training to make sure that new parents understand that. Set boundaries. Make sure that they understand that if you're here, it's for these reasons, or this is the time that you can come. These are times that you cannot just show up at my house, having a food train, you know, so because you're so busy and you're tired and your body is still trying to like get together and all these different things are happening. So, you know, no one has time to cook. But it's very nice to have a friend who can just drop off like something for you and your family to eat and just keep
and that was, man, that saved us. You know, I had an auntie that come over and just fix me a ham and cheese sandwich in the middle of the day because I ain't have nothing, you know. And you know, I had clients drop off food. I remember a friend of mine came over so I could take a shower. You know, all of those little things help, and it gets better. You know, you find your flow, but I feel like I underestimated the change because we get so caught up in the cutesy woo part of being pregnant, right? And then it's like the real work really starts when they get here. And so being able to have a game plan of what that really should look like, but more importantly, somebody to kind of guide you through that, I think could be a game changer, you know, afterwards. Not just how do I have this healthy pregnancy and this beautiful delivery, but like what happens after that. I just did a certification for pre and postpartum, you know, training women who are pregnant, and there's a whole section about post-pregnancy that goes all the way up into the baby's 18 months, because those are different times. Like newborn and infant is two different things, and infant and toddler is two different things. So those are all transitions, and your body is still transitioning with each one. Once you stop breastfeeding, that's a whole different transition. Dealing with the fact of if you were trying to and you couldn't. That can be a whole mental game, you know, depending on how the weight people around you or the weight you put on yourself to want to get it done, you know.
And I think even in that sometimes I know it's like, oh, breast milk is the best milk, but sometimes you can't.
You can't, yeah.
And, you know, I think what is a saving grace I would say is that sometimes you just have to accept what your body will and will not do.
You know, I didn't realize that I didn't learn till I was in the hospital. They were like, oh, you know, they both latched on. It was fine. But for some reason, Mikey, he wasn't sucking properly. And so, you know, Chris was fine. He was latching and doing his thug thizzle. And, you know, they were twins. So they were technically already preemies. But I had a full-term twin birth. But, you know, it got to a point where Mikey basically wasn't eating because he wasn't sucking properly. And, you know, they were like, well, you know... and then I couldn't pump. Like I would go to pump and nothing. I forgot what the proper term is. But I wasn't producing enough to even pump like that. You know.
I guess lactate.
Yeah. There you go. And they were like, yo, you know, I had to feed Mikey formula through a syringe. You know, until he could start to drink it out of a nipple. Because that was the only. It was. Do I let my pride say no and be like, no, he's breast milk only, and let him wind up being in the ICU for low blood sugar and malnutrition? Or do I just make sure my child get what he needs as long as he's getting it, you know? And then by the time I got home, I started nutrition wise doing what I needed to do, and then they both were, you know, breastfeeding probably within about a month of me being home. Before then, it was whatever we could get. If they latch, cool. If they didn't, he'd go to formula, you know?
And I'm glad you kind of touched on, like, yes, it is, pride to a certain point, but then also I think it's like expectation.
Yeah.
And there's such a hard expectation on moms, to get everything right and do everything right the first time. And it's just like, you're still human, I think, I don't know if it's social media or just because I'm like, even before the internet became a huge thing, there was still an expectation to be the perfect mom, the June Cleavers,
bro. Yeah. I think a large part of the healing that I do, that I work on with moms, I'm probably gonna do it for the month of May, is about mom guilt.
Yeah.
This unnecessary weight and expectation that we put on ourselves that we didn't ask for. I think there comes a release that is needed to be had, to receive that whatever mother figure you had, right? Whether it's your mom, your grandmother, your auntie, your godmother, everyone gives us the best they can with what they have.
Right.
Whether it's sucked or not is not really it's always up for debate, right? But they gave us their best. And I think that as long as we are giving our best, and our best is going to look different every day, and motherhood is not a blueprint. You can take as many classes and online courses and all the things you want. There's no blueprint for your child. Mm-mm. Even with siblings, every child is different.
Every child is going to be
so
different.
you have. I think the important part is to accept that motherhood is school, and you are a student, and you will be constantly learning, and you will get it right, and you won't sometimes, but you'll always get to go to the next grade, right? That's kind of by default, because your child get older and you get to grow. They don't come here knowing how to be them. We're figuring it out together. But if I'm giving my best and all I ask is your best, right? As my child, we can figure this out, and I can give you everything that you need. And just don't put the pressure of me being perfect. I'm your mama, but I'm human, and I had a life before you. Right? But that life is what has built me to give you what I can right now. And all I'm asking you to do is respect it. You don't have to understand it, but respect it and know that I love you and I got you. And we'll figure this thing out together, And I think as moms that we can start to kind of move from that space, rather than this this role model of perfection type of space, we actually enjoy being mothers quite a bit more, because we would be being ourselves and not what we think everyone else wants us to be when it comes to being a mom. Because our kids they chose us for a reason, and it wasn't because we were perfect. It was because of how we are right now is exactly what they need to become what they're supposed to be.
That was a word. Oh man, that was a word. Speaking of like the changes and everything, because the boys are 2 now.
Bruh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
During your first year of motherhood, how do you think like you change?
Ooh. I think anybody who knows me knows I like to work. I have no problem working. I love working. I will gladly wake up at 4 a.m. and work until 11 o'clock at night.
Not me, okay.
Right? Because I love what I do, and I did a lot of things.
You wear many hats.
Right. And I've kind of been that way my entire life. I think a part of that is being an only child, and I think a part of that is being in a space at that point in my life where I had lost both of my parents. So even though I had friends and family, my unit was no longer there, and so my work became my family, and I was very content with that. I was fine with that. I knew I had stuff to work on. I didn't think I was perfect, but I was content with what my life was. I just wanted more money, right? And so I think when I got pregnant, it hit me that I was receiving a new unit. And that that kind of took the wind out my sails a little bit, and it made me kind of reimagine my life. It made me have to really sit with my shit, for lack of better terms. I couldn't just go to work and sit it on the shelf, right? Because one thing I'm big on is parents not passing down their shit to their kids, and that is not something that I wanted to do. I was very adamant about that, and so they are the catalyst to my healing. I wanted to be the best growth, healing, continuing version of myself that I could be for them. And I think I started putting a lot of pressure on myself to be that perfect mom. And then they got here and they loved me for exactly, I'm not perfect. And yet when they look at me, I can see I'm enough for them. And that is something magical about that. When they tell you there's no love like a child, right, and a parent. I've always been on the other side of it. Right. But there's something about when my sons look at me, I am enough for them, and I am grateful that they see me. They know that their mama is goofy and got too much energy for her own good. They know children have been here before, right? I see them watching me figure it out, and I always appreciate their patience and their grace. I appreciate their respect, and I appreciate them trusting me. They listen, and that was within the first year. And so it changed me because it made me want to slow down. It made me see that life was much bigger than work, that my purpose is much bigger than collecting a check.
Yes.
That my healing in my relationships, how I treat people, how I show up in this world, how I take care of myself is so much more important than any music video, any tour, any 8 count cannot give me that type of peace, that type of freedom, that type of love. And that first year they taught me that. And so it put me in a whole new space or dimension of my life, and I like it here. And so they're 2 now, and we cleansing crystals and making herb bags, and we meditate and we doing yoga, and I am grateful to be able to give that to them at an early age, to where my hope is that by the time they hit 7, something happened at school, they will know how to take a moment and step to the side and get it together, right? And step back into it. They'll still be kids, but they'll be so much more aware, because that's their environment. And that's what I want for them, because that's what I want for myself.
And I think that's, first of all, very cool, and thank you for sharing so much, because I think it's important as moms and as women, to accept that we're not going to be perfect.
Yeah.
We deserve this happiness, and not just deserving of happiness, but deserving of having a complete space of peace.
Yeah.
And I think everything you just said, and the things that you learned within that 1 year is incredible.
Yeah, and I've always been grateful. Shout out to my husband.
Shout out to Mike.
Right. Shout out to MJ. I've always been grateful to my husband for giving me the space.
Yeah.
Giving me the space to evolve, even if he didn't understand it. Giving me the space to grow, even if it meant he had to get a little uncomfortable. And giving me the space to allow me to step in and lead our family if I felt like it was necessary. A lot of men won't do that.
Right.
A lot of men will be very uncomfortable with that. I am grateful that I am not necessarily married to that on all levels. And so I think as a woman, creating that space and that boundary, like me being like, yo, I'm going to get an Airbnb, I'm out for 2 days, but I'm gonna help you make sure you got what you need in place. But I am overwhelmed and I am checking out, I took my mommy mental health days, and that was new. I almost caught a panic attack in the midst of trying to do that, because I took off of everything. I didn't just check out the house. I took off of work. I stepped away from it all to be with myself, and I had not done that probably, if not ever, maybe since I lived in California. Yeah. And that's because I was forced to be by myself. This was voluntary, and I thought that opened my eyes up to how much I didn't know myself. I didn't know what I wanted to eat. I didn't know what I liked to do. Yeah, and I was like, what the? But we can get caught up in just a social life, right? And being obligated to others that we disrespect ourselves in the process, in our relationship with ourselves. And so having the boys and having a husband that just be like, do whatever you got to do, bruh. Because he understands that, like, when I'm good, we good. If I ain't good, nobody good. And that is the role of the mother, and that is the role of the wife. And I think in the past, we have been taught to feel that way in a corner. We have been taught that is just what it is. And I refuse to accept that. And so I believe that, don't call me the backbone and then tell me go sit in the corner. That doesn't logically make sense to me. If I'm the backbone, then I'm going to hold it down.
To be the backbone, you have to be strong.
Right. You know what I mean? But I feel like we were expected to be strong, and then we weren't attended to.
Yeah.
You
see posts now. I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, you're good.
But you see posts now, and it's like men are just like, my mom had to struggle, or this happened and that happened, and it's just like, we as women sometimes do get a lot thrust upon us. But just because we had to go through it, doesn't mean that we should go through it.
Yeah, and everybody should do their part too, though. Right. So don't watch. You shouldn't watch your mom. You shouldn't take. I understand the reverence of being like, my mom did this and she did that. I get that, but is that what you really want for her?
Right.
Because she's tired, and she has no life. She has no balance. Is that what you want for the woman that brought you into this world? I am grateful for my mother and my grandmother and my ancestors that have came before me and that have had to bear that burden. And what I refuse to do is disappoint them, when the whole point of them working so hard is so I could find strength and live with a certain healing and a certain peace about myself. It's not to repeat it, it's to break it. And so, yes, be proud. But don't think I'm about to volunteer to suffer because you think it was cute. Not doing that. Will I work hard? Of course. Will I do my part? Absolutely. Will I hold my family down? Without a question. But what I will not do is wind up in the hospital and y'all eating steak and chilling. Because I'm tired from making that steak and working. And everybody gonna do their part. That's why it's a unit. That's why it's a family. Everybody do their part. It shouldn't have to be on me. I should be able to do my part and delegate. And then we all live happily ever after. Times are changing. We just gotta be patient and stay steadfast in what we want for ourselves and what we will accept and will not. And the people that are supposed to be a part of that journey will come, and those that weren't ever meant for that high level of energy will go. You just gotta be open to what that process is.
You're just so wise. But I think that's just come with all the work you've been doing for yourself, though.
Yeah, that's just healing, listen, Linda, I got a long way to go. But that's a part of why we're here. You know, we're here to heal. You know, that's off rip. That is my belief. And you can't tell anyone that's healing, you can't tell me it ain't worth it, or their life ain't a little lighter or a little freer, or they're a little bit more peaceful. Are they moving in such a more steady and not so like all over the place? They're very more solid in how they move. They're very more confident in their worth. And to me, that's priceless. You know, doesn't mean it doesn't come with challenges and heartbreak and but that's just sitting, that's acceptance. That's sitting with your stuff and accepting your life and for what it is, and then choosing to move forward and be better tomorrow.
All right. And I mean, the space of peace, that, to be fair, is something that I hope I can bring to women in their postpartum. You know, just different questions that I'm sure they're not asked all the time. Just like, so what are you doing for your quiet time? You know, are you taking time out to just be? Yeah. Like, do you have moments when you know that, you know, the child or the children will be taken care of, that you can just take a nap? Like, do you plan on just, you know, do you have a... First of all, it's like, do women have hobbies anymore?
Yo, was that you I was talking to when I had my agenda?
Yeah.
And I was like, they have a hobby section. And I'm like, man, I never have anything in the hobby section. I think my new hobby is walking. And not walking for exercise. Walking for, like, quiet time. And to just think.
Because I was looking at something, and this is why I want to bring this to women, especially postpartum, because, as we mentioned, life changes.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, you do need something for yourself outside of just being a mom, a wife, or, you know, whatever title you may hold. You still need to have something for yourself.
Who are you? Yeah.
And even myself, I'm not a mom or anything, but even now it's just a wife and a sister.
No,
and, you know, and a podcast person, I guess. But
but even marriage, though, you know,
who are you outside of this marriage?
Who are you outside of that marriage? You know, especially if you've been dating for a long time.
Ooh, child.
And it's not even like, oh yeah, I go have girl time. It's bigger than that. You can't lose, you know, like, you can't lose yourself or get into the habit of always being attached at the hip, because then when it is time to set boundaries, it's like a culture shock to both of y'all, you know. And it's you know, nobody's saying don't enjoy your partner, like, duh, yeah, go for it, but that cannot be the purpose of your entire existence, because you had a life before you even met that person. I don't care if y'all met when y'all was 16, you was doing something before then,
right?
You know. But yeah, I think what you're doing with that post is, bruh, it is critical, you know, because what it does is it instills these habits, right? You get into these habits of, when that time is over and you do walk away, you empower them to not rely on you for that, which is what another thing I love about your approach to being a doula. And B, you know, I am a believer in discipline, right? In practicing habits. You get them into the habit of always thinking about, what am I going to do for myself? I need to make sure I do something for myself. And that in itself is a skill and a habit that is to be learned, you know? So I think what you're doing is great. I think this podcast is going to give a lot of women some perspective. I hope that it opens, if they're planning on having kids, having more kids, that it opens them to the possibility of having a doula as a part of their process. And if not, they just hold everyone accountable for their postpartum journey and not just their pregnancy journey.
Right.
You know,
because pregnancy is probably the easier part.
That's the easy part. For me.
For you.
I can't, everybody's journey is different.
Of course, and you know.
But in my opinion, you know.
However, once this child gets here,
listen,
it's a whole different set of responsibilities, and learning and understanding and accepting the new roles and the new you, because your life is completely changed once this child gets here.
Right. And I think the more solid you can be with yourself, the more grace you will learn to give yourself when you don't get it right, or when you forget, or when these socks don't match.
Give yourself some grace.
Yeah, you know, when these socks don't match, or you didn't hit the bottle at the exact feeding time. Like, you'll be like, I remember now though, let's go. Let's get it.
Feeding time, that is a different conversation. That is not a real thing. That is a myth.
I tell everybody, the boys put themselves on the schedule. I didn't have this big old system in place. We was freestyling it.
I mean, that's what you know? Technically, that's what you do. You look for cues of hunger, the smacking, the lips and the fingers.
Yeah, they still got these. They tell me when it's bath time. I be chilling. I be trying to get them to come finish watching Spider-Man. I be like, what y'all doing? It's about to get good. They be like, bath time.
Bath time. It's time to go to sleep.
I know. I'm like, dang, all right.
Well,
all right.
If you're ready.
Y'all showing y'all want to watch Paw Patrol? They got a new episode. You know, like.
Man, that movie was great. I love it. It was off the chain. Movie.
Let me tell you something.
I think I watched it better than my nephew.
Mike laughs because I'd be like, oh, y'all want to watch this? And Mike be like, is it for them? Or I'm like, don't judge my journey. Or my animation connoisseurship.
First of all, I feel children allows us to be children all over again.
Hey, listen.
And there's nothing wrong with having,
I know for a fact,
childhood joy.
I did not have every Disney VHS because I like Disney. I know for a fact all them tapes were for me. My mom would tell me when a new Disney movie was coming out. Sesame Street, live. Bruh, I think, you know, like...
I mean, I enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it, but I really don't think, like, me going was the premise of it.
It wasn't for you.
Because my mama loves Sesame Street, you know. She made sure we had all the little... That's when you had the felt ones, and you could put them on the wall, the characters on the felt stick. She was on a mission to make sure we had everyone. That was not my hobby. Like, she was determined. Like, but you know, yeah, they remind us of our joy and our pureness. And I think if we could get back to that before they even get here, my God,
we would be set. I agree.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. The good stuff.
That was good stuff.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Thanks for having
me and having this conversation.
Congratulations on your first episode.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, that is definitely the goal of even doing this podcast, is just to have some open, honest conversations that sometimes, you know, we kind of shy away from.
Yeah.
You know, we hold everything in, and, you know, no one is going through this but me, or no one knows how I'm feeling, and I feel that could be further from the truth.
Yeah.
You know, because first of all, we're not the first ones to have this journey, and I really feel like our parents, our grandparents, our great-grandparents, if they probably could have opened up a bit more, it would have been so much easier for them to move forward.
Yeah. And that's a survival generation.
Oh, yeah, it's definitely a survival generation. And while I am thankful for everything they have given us, we have to take the next step and start opening up about different things.
Because they built the space for us to be able to do that. So we have to take advantage of that.
Right. Because, I mean, they were the survivors. I think we are now in the position to, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess digest and understand. And then the next generation after us should just live freely.
Take it and run, yeah.
They have
live
the power
your life.
to run.
Live your best entire life. I agree.
Yeah, so many more of these to come.
Yeah.
And we're going to have some good conversations. We're going to have some tough conversations. We're going to have some loving conversations. But all in all, thank y'all for being here and listening. And I hope you guys stay and listen to the next one. Y'all have a good one.